Welcome to on Bets on Bets, Off the Ball Network's premier gambling shows, now on Saturday mornings as we get you ready for the college basketball slate for Saturday. We've got a ton of great games on the slate for today. So I'm your host of the show, Kenneth from the Shooter Shoot Basketball Podcast, and I am joined by my college basketball counterpart at the network. It's Walker Bailey from the One Shining Pod. How you doing, Walker?
I'm good. I'm excited. Today feels like the first really big Saturday in college basketball this year, so I'm excited to get on the couch and just kind of check out what just a lot of the matchups today.
Yeah, it does feel like once you get past Champions Classic and maybe a couple of those tournament finals, you get into that lull of like 4 or 5 weeks, and now today we finally get to see some great ranked matchups. Unfortunately, we got robbed on the Michigan front, not getting to see Michigan and Michigan State, but this slate is not short on good games today. So before we get into today's episode, I want to remind our listeners that this show is sponsored by BetUS. BetUS is the newest sponsor of the Off the Ball Network. They have the fastest payouts in the industry and offer a 125% sign-up bonus when you use the promo code OFFTHEBALL in all caps at sign-up. So head over to betus.com to sign up today. A lot of the lines that we have here today come from BetUS. You know, you can play the market. You can go and check out wherever you like, but we like the folks over there at BetUS, so go and use that promo code today. So as I said, Walker, we got a lot of great games for us here today, a lot of ranked matchups, a lot of big conference games. So what's the game to watch for you today in college basketball?
Yeah, I'm going to watch Kansas and Texas Tech really closely. I think that Texas Tech has the ability to give Kansas a lot of problems. I think that their no-middle defense under Mark Adams is their strength, and I think that matches up against what Kansas's strength is. They really like to score close to the basket, and I think if they can make Kansas shoot from the outside primarily, that Texas Tech is going to give them a lot of issues and have a chance to win that game. Texas Tech only dressed 7 when they went to play Iowa State in Ames the other night. So, and Kevin McCullough's out with an ankle, or had been out with an ankle injury. So I'll be kind of watching to see who they get back ahead of today's game. But if they're mostly healthy, then I think it's a spot where Texas Tech could give Kansas some issues.
Yeah, I think that they're definitely going to give Kansas a run, especially, Big 12 matchup here today. The Big 12 this year is pretty top heavy. You've got Baylor, you've got Texas Tech, Oklahoma State. We don't really know what they are yet, but I think we're going to find out today, especially. Yeah. I know that we're going to get into one of the bets later on about them, but one that I'm watching that isn't necessarily a Power 5 matchup, but one that I think is really telling today is going to be that Colorado State and San Diego State game, because I think you got the two best teams in the Mountain West today. The one thing that prevented me from betting this game is strictly that Colorado State's only played once in like a month. And
right,
it is a tough spot because obviously I said two top teams in the Mountain West. Colorado State's getting 3 points today. I think they could win outright, but it was one of those games that I'm keeping an eye on. I might live bet it, see what's happening early on. Like if the Aztecs jump out to a big lead, I think Colorado State could come back. So it might be a spot there, but Isaiah Stevens and David Roddy obviously going up against Matt Bradley. I think it's going to be a great matchup overall. Is this a game that you're keeping an eye on as well?
Yeah, it's one I want to watch. We both have been really high on Colorado State, and a loss here wouldn't change how I feel about them. But I think it's a spot to just kind of see almost see where San Diego State stacks up, because I feel like in the early season with how Colorado State's played against some quality opponents, they've almost moved into the role of being the favorite to win the Mountain West. And so I'm interested to see kind of how San Diego State stacks up at home. It feels like a spot where they should play their very best. And Colorado State, having talked to a couple of their guys, they always get up for going out to play in San Diego. So it's just a spot where you're going to get best on best, and we're really going to see kind of what's what out in the Mountain West early on.
I think this is a spot for Colorado State to prove that they deserve to be where they're ranked. I mean, if they go and win that game, we talked about it before we went on the air, we don't think it's going to get them into the top 10, but 11, 12, somewhere in that range, depending how some of these other games go. You win that game, and I think you're in a really great spot moving forward. And you kind of put some people on notice of, could this be like a Houston last year, this team that looks really good? Or if they lose today, are they maybe a little bit different than that? So let's get into the betting side of things. That's what we're here to do. A lot like our NFL version of the show, we're going to give our 3 bets that we like today. Bet with us as we go. Go to BetUS to make those bets as well. So, Walker, what's your first bet today that you like on the college slate?
I'm on Tennessee plus 2.5 at LSU. LSU's coming off a big win at home against Kentucky, and they get Tennessee and Baton Rouge again today. I think it's a spot where in defensive efficiency, you get the top two teams in the country. So it's going to be kind of a slugfest. I think LSU was kind of fortunate to get out of that Kentucky game with a win. Severe Wheeler went down early, and that's kind of the engine that makes Kentucky's offense go. And then you kind of had some turnovers and scramble offense stuff late that kind of made that 65-60 win look a little bit like the margin was a little bit larger than probably the game reflected. And I think the one place you can take advantage of LSU on defense is the 3-point line. And I think Tennessee has the shooters to be able to do that. And also, they've had really good looks from three, especially against Ole Miss on earlier this week, that they just haven't been knocking down. So I think they're due for some positive regression there, and shots should start to fall because they have guys that can make shots. And so I think today maybe is a breakout spot for Tennessee in a low-scoring affair.
Yeah, when I looked at the breakdown of these two teams, I think one thing that could play into Tennessee winning this game is the turnover battle. Because as you said, both these teams are great defensively, but LSU doesn't take care of the ball very well. They're pretty sloppy with it. So I think that's a great spot for Tennessee to take advantage. So I do like that spot there. I think it was 2.5, it's 1.5 now. I still like it. I think they could win outright, but just to be safe, taking the 1.5, I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, I think anything with a plus in front of it, you can pretty much feel pretty good about taking Tennessee. I think anything under a possession and anything, all the way down to a pick 'em, I think I feel really good about Tennessee. I think it's a game that they went outright. Rick Barnes has never won in Baton Rouge, so I think this is one where he checks that off his list today.
Yeah, so my first bet today, I'm rolling with Villanova -9 versus DePaul. I wasn't big on Villanova until I saw them play Creighton. And obviously because I thought that Creighton was going to cover to 10.5 earlier this week, and it was not close. Villanova blew them out after getting blown out by them a couple weeks ago. I look at across the board, Nova hits more threes. They're coming off a big win. I think that they're going to try and slow the game down because this is two contrasting styles here today. DePaul likes to get up and down. Nova likes to slow it down in the half court. I think if Nova gets DePaul into their half-court offense consistently, I think that Nova's going to put them away pretty early because I just don't see their half-court offense doing enough to keep up with Nova. So despite the fact that they're on the road today, I think Nova's great. They hit 9 threes a game despite their pace. Like, I think they're just really efficient in the way that they do things. I love Jay Wright as a coach. So I'm rolling with Nova -9 today. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I think Jay Wright's one of those now where you just trust him to a point where get to January, February, you just kind of know Villanova is going to be really good and they're going to start to kind of round into form. DePaul's been kind of a good story. They finally hired a coach that wasn't a retread, and they've looked pretty good early. But this is just one of those where they're going to want to run, and I don't know that they're going to be able to. They're definitely going to be running out inferior talent to Villanova. It just feels like a spot where they're just kind of outclassed. So I like the spot there.
Yeah, I just think it's a great spot for them. DePaul is a great story, though. I mean, heading into the year when we were talking about the Big East, we thought it's Nova, it's maybe UConn, and then everyone else. We've seen Providence has played well. Creighton's shown some flashes. We've seen DePaul as well. So the Big East is better than I think even I anticipated this year. And we're going to see if Nova's going to be the class of that today, I think. So what's your second bet for today?
Yeah, so I'm on Oklahoma -5.5. It's since ballooned up, I think, to 6.5 against Iowa State and Norman. Iowa State kind of won a slugfest against Texas Tech, or shorthanded Texas Tech and Ames. It's a team that's really overachieved under TJ Otzelberger, and I just think that they're a little bit overvalued here in the market. I really like Oklahoma. They've got the Groves brothers back. They're going to be healthy. They can really shoot it, which, again, I think you can take advantage of Iowa State from beyond the arc. And Iowa State hasn't really proven that they can keep up offensively. I think you see a low total here. I think, if I remember right, it's sitting around 128.5. And I just think with Oklahoma shooting, there's a chance that they could run away with this one. I think it's a really pure spot for Oklahoma to come in and just Iowa State off a big home win against Texas Tech. I think it maybe is a letdown on the road, and Oklahoma makes a lot of shots early and gets up big on Iowa State.
Yeah, when I look at this game, both teams turn it over a lot. As you said, Oklahoma's the better shooting team in this game. Was shocked that the spread was as high as it was, but I do think that if Iowa State falls behind, I don't know if they can catch up. That's the big thing for me in this game because I think Oklahoma, even if they fall behind, I can see them going on a 12-0 run really quickly just because of the way that they shoot the ball. So this is a spot that I like for Oklahoma, despite the fact that the ranking is in Iowa State's favor. I still think that Oklahoma is a quality team in the Big 12 this year.
I do think too that this one may play out similar to how Oklahoma Arkansas did, where Oklahoma hits a lot of shots early, and then the opponent has to force the issue and maybe turns the ball over, and it just kind of leads to more Oklahoma. I just think Iowa State has to start really well, or this thing is one that could get out of hand pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would agree there. If they fall behind double digits early in the first half, then I think it's going to be put to bed pretty quickly because I just don't think that they can catch up. Another one that I like today, UCLA minus 8.5, and this is me fading Cal once again because Cal had the nice start, but I don't think that Cal is what people think that they are early on in the year. I think that they played a lot of bad teams that they beat, and I think the record looks a lot better than what they really are. They have one quality win for me, and then I look at UCLA. I think they're a top 5 team. The road aspect of it doesn't bother me, especially after seeing what USC did to them the other night on the road. So for me, I just really like UCLA. I think that they're a wagon. I think that they're going to put them away pretty early. I could see this one being a 15, 20-point win pretty easily for UCLA. What do you think of it?
Yeah, they definitely have more talent and they're the better team and they're a better coach team. The only thing I worry about with road teams like that is, are you going to get the opponent's best effort at home? But I think, like you said with USC, if there was an opportunity for that to happen, I think we could have seen that the other night when Cal played USC, and they didn't really do that. So I do like the spot here for UCLA. It's just been kind of a weird time for UCLA where they've only played like 1 to 2 games, I think, in the last month or so. But they should be starting to get back into a rhythm and playing really well. Johnny Juzang and Jaime Jaquez should have big nights against Cal, and I think that it's one, again, that if Cal gets behind early, that UCLA should be able to run away with it.
Yeah, and I look at the record overall. I mean, Cal is 9-2 at home. That's where they won the majority of their games, but they haven't played many road games. So I think just beating bad teams at home doesn't really reflect what this team is. So yeah, UCLA hasn't played a lot, but I still think that they're the best team in the Pac-12 this year, and I think that they're going to prove it here today with a statement win. So Walker, what's your final bet for today for the college basketball slate?
Yeah, I've got Oklahoma State plus 3.5 against Texas in Stillwater. I think it's a spot, and I think it's an Oklahoma State team that we didn't talk about a lot because they got the postseason ban before the season started. But that doesn't really reflect kind of how talented this team is. Yeah, they lost Cade Cunningham, but they brought back Ice Likely, and I think it's this team under Mike Boynton that is going to play really well in the Big 12 and be a contender. We mentioned in the preseason that Texas has a lot of new pieces that they're still kind of trying to integrate and still kind of trying to figure out what's what. And they're really balanced, but I just think it's a spot where Oklahoma State at home, they kind of know more who they are. They've got some veterans. Texas is still trying to figure some stuff out. I think it's a spot where Oklahoma State under a possession or under 2 possessions is a really good play. It's down to 2.5 now. I think it's a spot where if you wanted to add a nice little plus money line spot in a parlay, I think Oklahoma State gets a big win at home today. I didn't take the money line, but I would be comfortable using it in parlays. I took the 3.5, so anything under 2 possessions, I think, is really, really good for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, plus 125 right now is what I have the money line at. So if you want to sprinkle that into a parlay, I don't hate it. The only thing about this game, I think it's very much like a Nova DePaul in the 2 contrasting styles, because Oklahoma State wants to get up and down, and it's because they're not a great shooting team. Like, they only hit just over 5 threes a game. So if they can get up and down, get some easy buckets, create some turnovers, I definitely see this game being close, and I think them being at home is big here. This is a spot that I just faded the game altogether because I don't know what to expect, but I can see why people like the Oklahoma State side of things, especially with the pace that they play. I mean, Texas is 347th in the country in pace, so they're not looking to get up and down. They're looking to run the half-court offense and slow it down. So this is an interesting spot for me.
Yeah, I think that's why you see the low total. It's set 127.5, 128. I think if that game goes over, it's because Oklahoma State got up and down and actually made some shots. And I do think they can do that. I think this is one where, the talent differential isn't such where Oklahoma State maybe isn't going to be able to get to their style of play. I think it's a more reasonable spot where Oklahoma State can get into their pace and really run and get to their style of play.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I compared it to Nova and DePaul, but I don't think Texas is as good as Nova, and I think that Oklahoma State's a little bit better than DePaul. So I could definitely see this spot hitting. It's one that I'm going to keep an eye on today as well. It might be another live bet for me where early on, if they're out and running, then I might just bet the money line while it's low and see what happens. But my last one for today, we talked about it before the show. Arkansas money line today against Texas A&M. Arkansas was a top 25 team to start the year, and then they had some tough spots there where they didn't perform. But I just don't think that Texas A&M is very good in the SEC. I know that they're the home team here today. I still think this game is going to be close because I don't think Arkansas is all the way back by any means. But I just think it's a great spot at minus 110 for a preseason top 25 to come out, win, and get back into consideration for that top 25. So I like Arkansas today. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I like it. It just feels like a get right spot. Texas A&M's had some quality wins and they played well against quality opponents, but I just think Arkansas, especially with the pace, both teams really want to get up and down. I just think when that's the case and you have much more talented scorers like Arkansas does, I think it's one of those where they should be able to have their way. And as long as they can protect the basketball and not get in a situation like they did against Oklahoma, where they're turning it over a ton, and Buzz Williams teams are going to try to turn you over. I think if they can protect the ball even reasonably, I think this is a spot where Arkansas should win. And A&M's just kind of been an overachiever early, and they're not going to be bad this year by any means. But I just think it's a spot where Arkansas is a lot more talented, and I do like them to go on the road. Texas A&M in an early start at 12 is not really, especially on Christmas break where students aren't a factor. I just think, and it's not really, so it's not really going to be a hostile environment either. I think it's a spot where Arkansas can go in. The environment's kind of neutralized, so talent should win out here.
Yeah, that's definitely how I'm feeling about it. You look at both of their last games. I mean, you had Arkansas close loss to Vanderbilt, and then you had A&M barely pulling it out against Georgia. So I think it's going to be pretty close. The total at 145.5. I think they're expecting it to be up and down, pretty high scoring games. So this is one where, if some of these games early on are blowouts, this might be one to tune into in the second half because it might be close down the stretch with lots of scoring as well, because that's what we love to see in college basketball.
Yeah, if you got multiple TVs set up, this is one that you put on the side TV with the volume off and just kind of keep an eye on it because it's one that could be really interesting down the stretch. If you have on like UConn Seton Hall or something like that early in the morning and that's your primary game, this is one to keep off on the side and pay attention to.
Yeah, and as we said, today is not short on quality games on the schedule. I mean, even early on, you look at big AAC matchup between Wichita State and Houston. That's going to be a fun one. Purdue playing early on as well today. We've got some big East matchups, whether it's UConn Seton Hall, like you mentioned, St. John's Providence. I mean, there's lots of quality games. So most of those games are tipping off in the next hour or two. So be sure to keep an eye out for those. As we said, bet with us as we go. But if you want to wait on some of these lines, see if they maybe shift a little bit before tip off, and go for it. But Walker, tell the folks where they can find your work at home before we get out of here.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at WalkerBailey8, and you can check out Chris and I on One Shining Pod on Spotify. And then you can just check out everybody at offtheballnetwork.com and everything that everybody's got going on. Or actually, I think it's offtheballnetwork.substack.com now. So you can check out everything there, and they've just got all your sports needs covered. I mean, Sunday starts in like 10 minutes, so they'll get you prepared for the NFL weekend and everything that you could need there. So
definitely. So tune in to See You Sunday. As we said, it's on in 10 minutes here. We're both going to be on there talking some NFL. So be sure to go and check that out as well. Yeah, we're over on Substack now. We have our daily betting thread, which actually goes live in 10 minutes here. So go and take a look at the betting thread. We're going to be posting some more plays in there, maybe some ones that we like throughout the day. So monitor it if you're looking to make some bets. Obviously, bet responsibly and be 18 plus years of age if you're going to, but I think that goes without saying. And go and check out the Shooters Betting newsletter as well. I had another play in there today on the college basketball slate as well. So for everyone who tuned into the live show, we really appreciate it. And we will see you tomorrow for Bets on Bets on Bets NFL edition, and next Saturday